Let's get this sports podcast party started, all right?
The JAYREELZ podcast.
Why don't you wait until July 1st to make an announcement? What a disgrace. He can rack up all these numbers in October, November, and December, but what really counts is let me see this in January.
The sports rebel without a pause, delivering fast-paced, jam-packed sports talk like no other.
Listen, I got to call it as I see it. He is not a good player. I'm sick and tired of having to deal with the disappointment of this franchise. When does it stop? And yes, another winter that I can sleep in peace. Coming correct, directed in full effect. Let's get it.
This is the JAYREELZ podcast. Welcome aboard.
What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic, in excellent spirits. As we approach the middle of April, the sports world is sizzling, and it's even going to get hotter. And you've come to the right place to listen to everything I have to say, or I have to say, what's going on in the sports universe, as this is the JAYREELZ podcast with JAYREELZ. For my first timers, welcome aboard. And for those who've been banging with me going back to the very beginning, somewhere in the middle, or even as early as this past Thursday, I welcome you guys and gals back. And as we get set for an NBA playoff where we'll have the play-in tournament tomorrow, I'll get into some storylines with that. NHL, the final few days as we have the Stanley Cup Playoffs this forthcoming weekend. I'll get into that. The baseball, even a tennis note. That's right. Tennis we talk about here on the podcast, but I'm going to start off with what happened there yesterday down in Augusta and pretty much the entire weekend there with the Masters. And for those that are watching live here on YouTube, I have this little makeshift ring light because my original ring light, the power cord, crapped out. I'm going to have to get a new one. Hopefully I'll get one in the next couple of days. So bear with me with my little setup here, whether you're watching live or even recorded here on YouTube or even on Spotify for that matter. So I appreciate your understanding in reference to that. But when it comes to the golf, the big theme overall, I will say before we get to Rory, because obviously he is the main theme here, but the tournament overall I thought was very good. It wasn't great. And even if you thought there was a lot of drama there, especially when you got to yesterday with all those players at or near the top of the leaderboard, whether your name was Rory McIlroy, of course, Patrick Reed, Sam Burns, Scotty Scheffler, who had a tremendous comeback, and obviously I'll get to him, Tyrell Hatton. You had so many of these golfers in the mix that when you look at the leaderboard at the end of the day and you say to yourself, wow, you had all these players bunched up together, battling it out to see who's going to come away with a green jacket. And for all intents and purposes, it fell short. It was good, but you didn't really have that nail-biting, white-knuckler type of moment where, and there was one for a hot minute, which I'll get to momentarily, but even when you look at how the leaderboard and the scorecard ended up at the end of the day, and when you look to see that, oh, Rory McIlroy won by one stroke over Scotty Scheffler, that must have been a barn burner. It was not. In fact, you had to have the heroics from Scheffler in order for it to get to a point to where it looked closer than what it was. But at the end of the day, Rory McIlroy, for the second year in a row, not only wins the Masters, but he did it in pretty much steady, if not spectacular fashion. And on top of all that, made history in back-to-back years. We know last year, him finally getting that Masters victory to complete the career Grand Slam, which was, you talk about thrilling, riveting, compelling, edge of your seat golf. That's what you had there with he and Justin Rose going into the playoff. And that's another name I forgot there, Rose, and we'll talk about him in a moment, but that was a tournament for the ages from that standpoint, knowing what Rory was up against, knowing that I believe he had a 4-stroke lead going into the back nine, and then it all evaporated before Rose got to the 18. They tied, and then in the playoff where Rory won his first coveted green jacket. And then this year was historic because he is only the fourth player in Masters history to win back-to-back titles. Jack in 65-66, of course, Nicklaus. You had Nick Faldo in 89-90 go back-to-back. And then Tiger in 2001 and 2, or was it 2000? No, it was 2000 and 2001. And no, I may have that mixed up. No, I think it's 01-02, come to think of it. And one of those years he had the Tiger Slam. Maybe that was in 01. Yeah, because he won it in 01 and 2002, but 2000 into 2001 was the Tiger Slam where he won the U.S. Open, PGA, and the British Open, called back then, but now the Open Championship. And then he followed that up with the 01 Masters victory. So here he was, a guy who hadn't won a major in 11 years going into the Masters last year. And even though he got his career Grand Slam and didn't win another major in 2025, he starts off the 2026 major campaign with another Masters. And again, Rory, throughout the weekend, he showed you why he is such a, I'm not going to say polarizing player, but he does show the difference between how great he can be and how great he is to a guy that gets you puzzled. He has you just even dumbfounded at times, as evidenced by this tournament. I just talked about how last year he had that 4-stroke lead heading into the back nine and spit it up. And then this year, after 2 rounds, he had a 6-stroke lead, which was the biggest lead after 36 holes that the Masters have ever seen. And I put out a short on Saturday before his 3rd round thinking that, wait a minute, is this a lock that Roy's going to win going away? And then what did he do Saturday? Had an abysmal round for him to the point where everybody came back into the mix, whether it was Sam Burns, who was at the top of the leaderboard for the most part over the weekend, Justin Rose, even Russell Henley. You had guys like that who came back up to the point where Rose and I believe, was it Burns? No, I think Rose was tied at the top with McIlroy. As a matter of fact, let me pull up while I speak here. Let me pull up the. No, we don't want to hear that. Oh, and it is Stephen A. talking about McIlroy. Did he even watch the Masters? I wonder. But anyway, now Roy shot a 73 where a lot of players came back and he shot 1 over. But when you had all these guys come back, Cameron Young was the guy he was tied with. I forgot him, and he's a big factor, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So Young and McIlroy were at the top of the leaderboard, tied going into yesterday's final round. And Cameron Young on Saturday shot a 65. And it made you think whether or not McIlroy was going to come out of this alive, knowing that he had this 6-stroke lead, and then it went poof, just like that, to the point where not only just Cameron Young, but all the other aforementioned golfers who are now in the mix here, looking to battle it out to see if they could become a champ, including Justin Rose, as I mentioned last year, the playoff, and was that close to winning. So now you get into yesterday, and McIlroy bogeyed on 4 and 6 to start. In fact, he double bogeyed on 4 and then bogeyed on 6, and it made you think, oh, geez, this is where it's going to fall apart. And for a split second, Justin Rose actually had the lead heading toward the end of the front 9 to where you thought, wow, could Justin Rose redeem himself from last year and somehow, some way find a way to get to the 18th hole a stroke ahead or maybe even tied? I'm sure the last thing you wanted was a playoff. But now you had a situation where with McIlroy on the ropes, Cameron Young trying to find his way, Justin Rose now playing phenomenal golf, and then on top of that, almost like a racehorse coming up the track with Scottie Scheffler. And Scheffler had his one moment, which I'll get to because I want to go almost not hole by hole, but Now you had a situation where as you get to the back nine, Justin Rose starts to fall apart. He, on 11, had on his second shot, had a terrible shot where it shanked, and he bogeyed that hole, and he bogeyed another hole back-to-back where now he was flailing and tried to get himself back, and he missed a big putt on 17 and ended up, I believe, one stroke behind? Or maybe 2 strokes now. When it was all said and done, as I'm looking up Rose here. No, he ended up 2 strokes back. As, of course, McIlroy was 12 under for the tournament. So now Rose faded there in that second back nine. And then Cameron Young, who was mano a mano, neck and neck. And Cameron Young, his putter betrayed him throughout the entire round. On 11, missing a putt. On 14, on 17. And in fact, on 14, let me pull that up because I jotted this down. Cameron Young, I believe, on 4 of those holes. And by the way, that Saturday when he came back to tie, he had 8 birdies in that round. And became the first Masters player to trail by 8 shots to draw even going into a final round. And for him to then go, let me see, 14 he missed badly, 15, and then on 16 where it went in and around the cup and out. And those 3 holes, he probably hasn't slept a wink. Because if he would have made 2 of those putts, he would have had a playoff. And if he would have made all 3 of them, and those are all makeable putts, that's where his blemish is on this, not only this round, but this Masters. Because for him to come all the way back to what he did on Saturday, and then on Sunday to be right there and not be able to sink those putts, oh, geez. And that's what foiled him. And even guys like Sam Burns, who was there, and Burns had a brutal, I believe he double bogeyed on, on 3, I think it was. No, he double bogeyed on 2 and then bogeyed on 3, and he was out, and then he came back. I believe he ended at, 9 under for the tournament. Made a great putt on 16. But, yeah, he was just, Cameron Young, I was angry for him and at him too, but because you wanted to see drama, and that was my point at the start of this. You didn't get that riveting, like, oh, he's going to be that closer. You knew that if he made those putts, he either could have won or there would have been a playoff. And that's why at one point, I believe on 14, McIlroy had a 3-stroke lead. And you're thinking to yourself, there's no way he's going to blow this. And a lot of that had to do with Young. And I'll get to Rory too. I'll throw him his bouquets. But now I want to get to Scottie Scheffler. Scheffler, who a lot of people thought, oh, God. And his first 2 rounds for him were just brutal. All right, he shot 1 under, but then he shot 2 over, and you were thinking there's no way. And what did he do in back-to-back days? He shot a 65 Saturday and a 68 yesterday, which was not only otherworldly, but he is the first golfer since 1942 to go bogey-free in the last 2 rounds of a Masters. I mean, think about that. He did not go over in any of the holes over the final 36, which shows that if he just did well on Friday in the second round, he probably would have won the Masters. But here was his moment on 17, where had a makeable putt, and at that point, he was 2 strokes behind Rory. And what did he do? He missed by literally a hair to the left. And if he would have sunk that putt, there would have been a playoff because that was for birdie. And instead, it was for par. And that was it. And Scheffler, I knew watching that, I said to myself, he has to make this. And he was that close. Go back and watch the replay of that. And Scheffler was phenomenal here over these last 2 days. I mean, you can't tip your cap even more, but obviously fell short. And for Rory, now when he got to 18, this is where it got interesting because at that point, Young, who had been struggling with his putter, as I mentioned, and everybody else is in the clubhouse, and it literally would have had to take a meltdown for Rory to lose. And his first shot off the tee went way right to the point where it probably landed in the best place possible for him because it was so far off of where the trees were lined to where he actually had an out where he didn't have to go through the trees. The crowd who was lined up right where the trees were, they were actually able to push the crowd back a little bit so where he could find an opening for him to get a shot, maybe onto the fairway, maybe not have to worry about getting a shot where he will shank or to hit it off a tree and ricochet elsewhere. He was able to get a shot where if you watched, you didn't even know where it landed. And the cameras couldn't capture where that landing was. And then Cameron Young hit his shot off the tee to the left. But then we realized that it was in the bunker. And for Rory to even get in the bunker, that was a miracle. And then obviously his approach was impeccable. I mean, Rory had a great day. Even on 16, he made that one putt, which was that close to the cup, which was indicative of how he performed there. And again, he was steady, if not spectacular at times. But then Rory bogeyed on that hole. But because he was in the clear because he knew that for him, and that second shot was critical on 18 because if that shot would have went awry or who knows what, he would have had a playoff against Scheffler, which I was kind of hoping for, but we knew that that wasn't going to be the case. And then here it was, very anticlimactic after Cameron Young sinks his putt, and even though Rory came that close, but it was a tap-in for a Masters tournament, back-to-back green jackets. First time it has happened in, 24 years when Tiger last did it. And for McIlroy, that's his 6th Grand Slam major win. I believe he has 1 PGA, 2 U.S. Open, and 1 British. Or he may have 2 British and 1 of each. Now he has 2 Masters in his resume and 6 total. I mean, what could you say? Rory, right now, at the top of the game. And I mentioned on Thursday, yes, I picked Bryson DeChambeau as my win. He didn't even make the cut. He was atrocious. And I thought Rory, listen, I didn't think he was going to have a bad tournament. I just didn't think he was going to win because I thought that although the pressure was off, he didn't have to worry about having to come in here and win this tournament to get that career Grand Slam like he did last year. But how I looked at it was because this was a victory lap, so to speak, where they had the champions dinner there the night prior to the start of the tournament. And obviously he had the menu all set up to whatever it is that his liking, Irish fare, whatever type of pudding, and who knows what was on the menu. But this was the crowning achievement. And yes, although this took place a year ago, but knowing that he can now enter this champions dinner from here until he's no longer on this planet. Because you have to win the Masters in order to be in. It doesn't matter how many majors you win. It doesn't matter how many other tournaments you win, whatever. When you win the Masters, you are a part of that dinner. And I thought that all the pats on the backs and the congratulations and the hugs, that he would go into this tournament carefree, but not to the point where I thought he would be a guy, close to the top of the leaderboard, but that he was going to pretty much be from in front from the very start. And that's what it was. He led from in front. Cameron Young, let's face it, spit the bit. Scottie Scheffler came roaring back, but fell short. Guys like Jason Day, who was at the top of the leaderboard, is another guy I didn't mention. Justin Rose, Tyrell Hatton, Sam Burns, Russell Henley. I mean, they didn't deliver. They weren't able to either their putter or either their approach. That's it. It just failed them. And Rory rises again. And congratulations to him. What more can you say? I'm not a big Rory guy. There really isn't a guy on the tour that I'm like a big fan of or I like. I mean, listen, you could easily say Scheffler. I mean, he's a likable guy, et cetera. But, I mean, that's being a guy that's on a bandwagon. So I'm not going to pick him. But Rory does it again. Makes history again. And right now, there isn't any dispute as to who the number one player in the world. You can still say Scottie Scheffler, of course. And I don't know how the rankings will be. And talk about number one player in the world. In another sport, I'm going to talk about that later in the podcast. But you can't knock what Rory did this weekend. And I get it. You could also take the tact of these players collapsed. They more or less lost it, then Rory won it. I mean, that's unfair because Rory played from in front. He was at the top of the leaderboard the whole weekend pretty much. And he made the putts when needed, made the shots when needed on 18, as I mentioned, even that putt on 16. And he delivered where the other guys didn't, especially Cameron Young. I mean, how does Cameron Young sleep from now until the PGA next month? I mean, I don't know. So give it up for Rory. Congratulations to him. And again, it was a very good tournament. Excuse me. Yesterday wasn't as riveting as it should have been, I thought. And that's what you want. You want it to be a thing where everybody that was near the top of the leaderboard was within striking distance, without question. And it just was a matter of a shot or two here or there that I just chronicled. But even then, did you really feel like Rory was in danger of losing this tournament? And that's where you didn't have the drama. That's where it wasn't like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Or edge of your seat. Like you had last year with Justin Rose going at it with Rory McIlroy. You didn't have that this year. And that you can't dispute. And there's people that have, even on my YouTube channel here, they've said that, oh, what are you, crazy? There was drama. I didn't see it. Not at all. And even though when you look at the scorecard and you see Rory 12 under, Scottie Scheffler 11 under, and then four of the golfers underneath Scheffler were at 10 under, and it makes you think, whoa, wow, this had to be right to the wire, tooth and nail, down to the finish. It was not. And that's why I thought it still was very good. That's not the knock tournament overall, but it didn't capture the imagination to think that, oh my God, Rory McIlroy could lose this tournament when you got to the back nine. That's it. So that's what you have with the golf, and we look forward to the PGA next month, which I wish the PGA was in August when it once was about, 8, 9 years ago, but we'll talk more about that then as we move it along here. Now, whoever has comments, I'll get to the comments later on, as you know. So, and I know I didn't post this up. There I go. The voice collapsed went back to back. So anyway, let me put the golf clubs away, get into the NBA as I bring up the graphic here for those watching. The season has finally concluded. The marathon of the association. And a couple of things before we talk about the play-in. Denver goes in riding high, 12 in a row, and they needed every one of those wins to get the 3 seed, which means that they'll, in all likelihood, get San Antonio in the second round of the playoffs. So they avoid OKC, where you have Lakers, Rockets go at it. And I'll go through the schedule. I'll break it all down, etc. later on in this segment. But between that and everything we've talked about here over the last month, it seems, when we talk about the NBA, how the East, with that whole playing scenario, if Philly or Toronto and Atlanta, which stood pat and did what they had to do in order for them to stay in the body of the tournament as opposed to falling back to the playing scenario. And Orlando had an opportunity to win yesterday, and they actually had a lead in the second half against the Celtics, but the Celtics were able to prevail and win that game, which I believe Orlando would have put them in a position where they probably could have gotten, I don't know the tiebreaker with Atlanta, but they could have been the 6th seed where Atlanta would have been part of the play-in. But that's all you had. I mean, you didn't really have a lot of compelling or even intriguing storylines coming down the pike here, going into the playoffs, or to the play-in, I should say. But now that we're here and we have the 2 games tomorrow night, 2 games on Wednesday. Tomorrow you have Miami and Charlotte, Portland and Phoenix, followed by Orlando, Philadelphia, and Golden State and the Clippers. So you have the 9-10 matchup of Miami-Charlotte, and you have the 7-8 matchup of Portland and Phoenix, which means 9-10 Wednesday out west, and you have 7-8 Thursday, or excuse me, Wednesday in the East. Now, my storylines. There aren't many when you think about it. Here are the 3 that I find maybe the most juicy. We'll just put it that way. The first one is this the last hurrah for Golden State? And I say that respectfully because if they don't win the next 2 games, well, let's start with the first one. If they don't beat the Clippers there Wednesday night, obviously they're done. They need to win 2 games in order for them to get into the 8th seed in the Western Conference. And when I say last hurrah, I mean, think about it. Steph Curry's going to be a year older. Now, I believe he has 1 more year left on his contract, so he's coming back. Similar to Kawhi Leonard, I might add, the team that they're actually facing, which they are part of the storylines as well. But I say the last hurrah respectfully because Curry's not getting any younger. Draymond Green isn't getting any better. They're still, with their injuries, Jimmy Butler not going to come back to January around that next year. I think that this era of what we've seen with the Warriors, Steve Kerr, obviously Klay Thompson has left. I mean, this is it. And unless they're going to come back rejuvenated, revitalized, whatever, with a totally different roster next year where they're going to be in some sort of contention, I mean, this is it for the Warrior run. And even if they do win the 2 games and get in as an 8 seed, I mean, come on. They're going to get swept by the Thunder. I mean, that's all there is to it. So this could be, in essence, the last of the Warriors as you're going to see it. And even with Draymond, I don't know. He probably has another year left on his contract. But again, Draymond, I understand he may have his moments, whatever, but you're not going to be able to take him seriously at this age to be a top-flight prime defender on top of him. I mean, he barely scores as it is to begin with. So are the Warriors just going to be a one-and-done here? Are they going to take you to Friday night, which is what the next game will be for them in the nightcap there Friday for the doubleheader? Or is this going to be a situation where the Clippers are going to run him out of the building? Steph, all right, he may have his 18, 19 points and go 2 for 9 from 3, but he's going to be, this team is a shell of its old self. So to me, this is their last hurrah in my eyes. Unless they have a complete makeover going into next year, and maybe they could be a team that could be middling in the West and not be a playing team. The other storyline is the upstart Charlotte Hornets, and they're going to host Miami here. And Miami, they know their way around the play-in. I don't know if they're going to have enough of what it's going to take for them to win in Charlotte. But I will say this. Charlotte, you don't want the Heat to hang around. I'll just leave it at that. But to me, I want to see this Charlotte team at least get to that next game. And I'd rather actually see them as an 8 seed in the playoffs. I want to see them when the competition gets ratcheted up. And by the way, if they do get that 8 seed, they will go up against the Pistons, who, if you recall, earlier this year, they got in that dust-up. Musa Diabate, Jalen Duren, who got suspended, if you recall. So that would be a very, very intriguing first-round matchup. Now, the Pistons will probably beat them. Maybe I'll give the Hornets a game. But who knows? That would be one, because of the fireworks earlier this year, could actually be a first-round series to maybe even keep an eye on. But for Charlotte, now think about this. Their low point of this season, I believe, was on January 21st, 22nd, somewhere around there. They were 16-28. And they ended their season from that point on 28-10. If you really want this season to stick, not only to the NBA fan, but to those fans down there in Charlotte, that game tomorrow is a must game for them. If they lose that game, and they could lose, I don't think they will, but that would eliminate everything they did from January 22nd until tomorrow night. And I want to see them win those two games. Will they? I'll talk about that in a minute. But with that young upstart team, we know that LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller and Colin Kneppel, and I mean, they have a very good young nucleus that if they put some key veterans around them, that could be a team to, dare I even say, watch out for. Which is even kind of hard to think Charlotte Hornets to be an up-and-coming team. Now, are they up-and-coming in the ilk of the Spurs and the Thunder? Now, listen, the Thunder won a title, so they can't even be in the same sentence. But the Spurs, now they don't have that one player like Victor Wembanyama. LaMelo Ball is not Victor Wembanyama, but maybe Charlotte could be a team that could go next level if they get into the bulk of the tournament after this coming stretch here of the play-in. And then the last thing is the Clippers, because they're, to me, in the same boat as the Warriors. Now, obviously, they have nowhere near close to the success that the Warriors have had here over the last decade plus. But with Kawhi Leonard going into his final year next year, and the Clippers, for everything, the new building and the way that team was constructed with Paul George, with James Harden, and George leaves to Philadelphia, and Harden gets traded, and Kawhi's the last guy standing, and with all the controversy off the court about how he got paid and that company and the situation with the salary cap, how that was circumvented by Steve Ballmer, and that's still under investigation. And now you have this Clipper franchise where they're going to host this game against the Warriors, but what is it going to mean in the grand scheme of things? Is it going to get them to play the loser of the 7-8 game and maybe into the playoffs? Maybe. But this Clipper team, for the way it was built and for all of the hype over the last few years, right now you got to wonder whether or not this is on life support. And I got news for you. Steve Ballmer, they probably won't do it. And I haven't heard this elsewhere. But you got to wonder. He played 65 games this year, Kawhi Leonard, and last year was relatively healthy for him as well. Do you even dare dangling that carrot? Considering that he's going to be an expiring contract, do you even dare trading him to get anything back? Now, I got news for you. He's 34 years of age, and we know about his injury history. I don't know how much you're going to be able to fetch for even a guy of his resume when healthy of Kawhi Leonard. But you'd have to flirt with it if you're Steve Ballmer, because your team is going nowhere fast. Unless, similar to what I mentioned about Golden State, on the fly, they're going to start bringing players back or revamping their team to the point where they're going to be at least a pseudo contender in the West. Because right now they're anything but. Now, as far as these games real quick, and then I'll get to Doc Rivers. Miami, Charlotte. Listen, Miami could win the game. And they're always in these play-in tournaments. It's a shame. I understand that they don't have a very good roster. They have a couple of good players, and everybody else is just piecemeal together. You know, you're only going to go so far with Davion Mitchell and guys like that. But something tells me I can see Miami winning this game. They've had so much success here in the play-in. I'm rooting for Charlotte, though. I want to see Charlotte win. I think it'd be good for the league to have a team like that and for everything that they've done. But watch. If the game gets close or if Miami hangs around, that is – Charlotte has to play from in front the whole night. It's better if you get to the fourth quarter and they're up by 20. If Miami is, dare I even say, leading, or let's say they're within a basket or two, they can be within 6 going into the fourth quarter. and I'd be afraid. But I'm going to say Charlotte wins based on their run since the latter part of January. But would I be shocked if the Heat win? Absolutely not. Portland, Phoenix. I know Portland's had a very good year, and they beat the Clippers to get to this point to where they have 2 shots to get into the postseason. I don't know. To me, this is a toss-up. I haven't watched Portland consistently year in and year out, or at least this year. I'm going to say Phoenix, only because I trust them more than I trust Portland. And I know Portland has a young team, and listen, they've gotten to this point. I mean, think about this. Their head coach, Chauncey Billups, had to be put on leave because of the gambling scandal that hurt the NBA, prior to the start of the year. And you got to give it up. Just a great job by Portland just to be relevant and for them to be in this spot. But I'm going to pick Phoenix. I trust them a little bit more. I know that's not going out on a limb, but saying a lot, but that's what I'm going to say there. Orlando, Philly. Listen, Philly has the better talent. Orlando has the younger legs. And Philly, you just don't know which team you're going to get from one game to the next. I'm going to say veteran legs, and I'm sure Nick Nurse, the coach, is going to hammer this home. Guys, we win this game, we rest until the weekend. And if they win, they're going to play the Celtics in the first round, which would be Sunday at 1 o'clock. But Orlando, I know they're young. They've now in the postseason last 2 years. They lost to Cleveland 2 years ago, and they lost to the Celtics, both in the first round. And I know one of these road teams are going to win at some point. And because it's 7-8, I'm going to say Philly. It's a toss-up. Maybe I should go more Orlando. I'm going to say Orlando in this case. I just think younger legs, Philly, you just don't know from one game to the next what you're going to get from them. I don't trust Orlando either, but I'm just going to say them because one of these road teams is going to win. I wouldn't be surprised if Portland wins either, but I think Phoenix. And then Golden State and the Clippers. What does Golden State have left? I don't know. I think the Clippers will win. I don't see any way that Golden State wins this game. I just don't. I mean, Porzingis, is this man going to play? And what is he going to give you, 12 minutes? I know the Brandon Podziemskis of the world and the Guy Santoses and guys like that. I mean, Yeah. And then the good thing is on Thursday's podcast, I'll recap Tuesday and Wednesday night's matchups and then obviously prepare for the games on Friday, as well as I'll give you a little handicap and storylines for the playoffs overall, which you won't want to miss. That's going to be interesting because there's a lot that I got to say when it comes to that. So that'll be for Thursday's pod right here on the channel, 11 a.m. And before I move on, 2 things. Or 3 things. Doc Rivers, out as coach of the Bucks. Why they gave this guy a big-time extension. They got to pay him next year. He's going to earn 8 figures. And Milwaukee, that's been a disaster all year, even with Giannis. And Giannis, who knows if he's going to come or go. That will wait till later on. But the one thing I talked about this weeks ago, Doc Rivers is going into the Hall of Fame this year as a coach. And I understand he's won a championship. And I understand he's had a very good coaching career. But he's blown a lot of 3-1 series playoff games or playoff series in the past, as I've chronicled. This Denver team, this Milwaukee team, I understand that they had Giannis, who was in and out of the lineup, and they didn't really have a good supporting cast. But still, 32 games. And Giannis said he was healthy, but the team said, we're going to put him on the shelf. Was that the tank? Who knows? But just a mess there. So that's number 1. Number 2, your schedule forthcoming for the weekend. Saturday, 1 o'clock is Toronto at Cleveland. And this is both all the game 1s for the weekend. Then you'll have Minnesota at Denver, 3:30 on Saturday, followed by Atlanta at the Knicks, 6 p.m. And then you'll have the Lakers host the Rockets. That game is on ABC. The 3 games prior to that are all on Prime Video. And then Sunday, obviously we don't know who the opponent is, but the Celtics will host the 1 o'clock game, followed by Oklahoma City, 3:30, 6:30 Pistons, and then 9 o'clock, I think it is San Antonio. So that is your schedule. And then the first 2 games on Sunday are on ABC, and the 2 night games are on NBC and Peacock. And then lastly, before I move on, and this is what happens when I pick teams that I don't like, that I'm not a fan of, and I see some comments there. I'll get to them at the top of the next hour, I promise. But this is what I get. My over-unders, win totals. Remember I talked about it last week where I said, if the Knicks will run the table somehow, some way, and they beat the Celtics there on Thursday. No Jaylen Brown, of course. And they beat Toronto on Friday, so they played Charlotte yesterday. I needed them to win. Their number prior to the start of the year was at 53.5. How many wins did the Knicks have going into the game last night against the Hornets? 53. What was the outcome? Knicks lose. Therefore, I get burned. Last year, I was 5-1 with my over-under win totals. I forgot who the team I lost to or lost with. This year, because of that Knick loss, I don't even get to 500. 2-4. Terrible job. And as it is, real quick, with the NHLs, I'll get to them in a minute. I need Nashville to lose their last 2 games in order for me to go 5-1 for my over-under point totals. So that's what you got there. All right. Let me lace up the skates, go to the NHL, take a sip of water in the process. We're down to the last few days. The season will conclude on Thursday. And as you see there on the graphic, you have some interesting races, which I'll unfold. But the Islanders are cooked, done, toast. The Islanders who made that panic move by firing Patrick Roy. Why, I don't know. They could have fired him even today if they wanted to. Or tomorrow, their final game against Carolina. Which the only thing that you're looking forward to if you're an Islander fan is if Matthew Schaefer, I'm thinking of the old defenseman because I had Canadians on the brain. Matthew Schaefer, the number 1 overall pick this past year, who's going to win the Rookie of the Year. I mean, there needs to be an investigation if that's not the case. But the only game to watch tomorrow, or one more time, the only reason to watch the Islanders tomorrow is to see whether or not Matthew Schaefer gets the record for most goals scored by a rookie defenseman in National Hockey League history, which was done by Brian Leetch. He tied him Thursday night against Toronto, and he could surpass him with a goal tomorrow night against the Hurricanes. Now, the Islanders overall, a complete mess, complete disaster. And I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes on this and then I'll move on. But here's the reason why. And I think back on this and it's just painful. The reason why this team is not going to the playoffs is because they do not score, as evidenced by this weekend, but not even just this weekend, overall. They have one guy that is a 30-goal scorer, that being Bo Horvat. Good player, good goal scorer, but he's right at 30. He didn't score 36. He didn't score 39. He's at 30. You have 2 other guys that scored 20 goals this year, one being the aforementioned Schaefer. And to think a rookie was carrying the mail when it comes to goal scoring. The other one was Emil Heineman, who's had a very good year. And I understand you have a couple other guys in the teens and high teens at 19 and 117, but they do not have goal scorers. I understand that you're not going to have 3 lines of guys that are going to score 20 or more goals. I get that. But the Islanders this offseason, they need to get more offense. And if they don't, it's going to be the same rigmarole that we've seen, not just only this year, but last year as well. And that's it. They need offense. They need to bring in a guy that's a sniper. And hopefully a guy that's a veteran knows his way around winning and maybe even has won a Stanley Cup along the way to help out in that room to get them to the next level. That is the problem. And they didn't need to fire Patrick Roy with 4 games left to bring in Peter DeBoer. And based on some of the things that I heard is that the reason why they brought him in is because they didn't want for the Islanders to, let's say, make the playoffs, which that should have been the goal, but to make the playoffs and then have a scenario where they may lose out on Peter DeBoer to other teams once the season concludes where, wait a second, now Peter DeBoer is all of a sudden Al Arbor? Listen, no offense to Peter DeBoer, and I believe they signed him to a 4-year contract on top of that. What? What has Peter DeBoer done? All right, you want to say 2 Stanley Cup runs with the Devils in 2012 and the Golden Knights in 2018? You want to say that? All right, fine. But other than that, I mean, give me a break as I pull up the NHL standings here and the schedule and all that. I mean, that's just, come on. Like, what are we doing? And I understand they may not have a pick of the litter out there, and maybe the guys that they targeted, they were afraid. But Peter DeBoer, if Scotty Bowman was out there, all right, I can see that. And I understand he's out there, but he's long retired. And wait, now that I think about it, Scotty Bowman, he's got to be in his 90s, is he not? And this is Scotty Bowman. This is one of the great coaches in all of sports, not just hockey. All of it. Guys won 1 million Stanley Cups. Yeah, he's 92. God bless his soul. He's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's won 9 cups. And you know what? They might as well try to see, hey, Scotty, maybe for 1 year? No, 92 years old. I mean, come on. I'm kidding when I say that, but there's a problem with the Islanders. And I understand that GM is young. Matthew Darsh has just got there. But he's going to really have to put pedal to the metal to get this team back into the postseason. And not as a wild card. Not as a – no. And when I think about it too, here's the most infuriating thing about this as I cover my eyes. I know you're watching this. Oh, my goodness. 2 weeks ago, this very day, the Islanders had the 2 seed in the Metropolitan Division where they had the Penguins coming into their building. And if they would have won that game, who knows? They actually had a 3-1 lead in the second period of that game until the Penguins skated past them as if they were standing still. Scored 7 unanswered goals. They lost 8-3 and lost their way from that point on. To the point where yesterday the Canadiens put them to rest for the 2025-2026 season. And Matthew Darsh has his work cut out for him. I know he's not listening, but maybe this will get to him at some point. Maybe somebody out there that's watching now live or on replay could get the message. Goal scoring. Do whatever it takes to bring in snipers. I get it that they don't grow on trees, but do whatever it takes. Ugh. As far as the NHL, now you had a lot of teams bow out here. There's still some intrigue, I will say, but because of the Islanders losing, the Red Wings lost over the weekend, so they're done. Remember, you had about 4 or 5 teams battling it out for 1 or 2 spots. That is not the case anymore. And in fact, in the East, Carolina's going to get the 1 seed. We would think. I understand they still got a couple of games left. Anything could happen. But Carolina's going to be the 1. And Buffalo, Montreal, Tampa, they're battling it out to see who'll get the 2 seed. But really what you got left is the 3 seed in the Metropolitan Division. Because the wild card's already set where Boston and Ottawa have gotten those. And maybe Ottawa could overtake Boston to where they wouldn't have to play Carolina in the first round if Ottawa wins and Boston loses in their final game. But you have the Capitals and Blue Jackets separated by 1 point. Capitals at 93, Blue Jackets 92. And then the Flyers are ahead of them with the 3 seed in the Metropolitan at 94. Now, both the Flyers have a game in hand on both. They played 80. Washington, Ottawa played 81. Now, the Flyers' schedule is not easy. They play, I believe, the Hurricanes tomorrow. No, actually, it's tonight. My apologies. Now, both of the games are at home, but they play Carolina and Montreal. I don't know if Carolina's going to start resting players because they play it back-to-back. They play tonight in Philly, then they play the Islanders tomorrow. So the Flyers could clinch with a win tonight. Now, if they lose, that keeps the Blue Jackets and Capitals alive. The Capitals, in their final two games, interestingly enough, wow. Here's what's going to be interesting. If somehow, some way, if the Flyers lose to Carolina tonight, Washington, in their final game, and Columbus's final game, is against one another. So that, in essence, is a playoff game. Because, remember, Washington 93, Blue Jackets 92, Flyers 94. If the Blue Jackets win and the Flyers lose the next two, I guess by a tiebreaker, Columbus will get the 3 seed. If Washington wins, out goes Columbus. And if the Flyers lose their next two, Washington gets in. All Flyers need to do is win one of the next two, and they're in. So still a long shot for both the Capitals and Blue Jackets, but they are alive. And one of them are going to be done by tomorrow if Philadelphia loses tonight. So that's what they're hoping for. And Philly's last game against Montreal, it must be Wednesday then, right? Let me just confirm that. The last game for the Flyers, no, it's actually the next night. Wow, back to back. Okay. So we got to root for the Flyers to lose tonight just to have any type of drama for that final game. And that game has also got to be at 7 o'clock, right? Because I see Montreal at Philly is at 7. And then the Columbus game against the Capitals is at 7 also. Well, that's what you have there. And then out west, we know about Colorado. And yeah, the Central's pretty much, that's already a wrap. But here's the other thing you have. The Pacific. Vegas is a point ahead of both Edmonton and Anaheim. All three teams have played 80 games, which means they have 2 games left. Now, you also have to throw the Kings in there because the Kings have 3 games left. They're at 87 points, so they do have an outside shot to maybe even get in as a 3 seed. The Kings right now currently have the second wild card spot. And behind them are Nashville, 1.86. Winnipeg and San Jose, they're still alive, but to me, they're done. They're 5 points behind. They're going to have to run the table, and LA's going to have to collapse. So Winnipeg and San Jose, to me, are out. Nashville, they have 2 tough games in their building. Nashville has San Jose and Anaheim to conclude their year. And obviously, San Jose needs to win if they want to stay alive. And they've been scuffling here as they lost 3 in a row. But what I find fascinating is who's going to win the Pacific, because whomever wins the Pacific will have the 2 seed. Vegas right now, slimmest of margins. And let's see what the schedule looks like for all 3. Vegas's final 3 are, or 2, I should say, Winnipeg and Seattle. Easy games. Edmonton's final, they host Colorado tonight. Now, Colorado has nothing to play for, but certainly not going to be an easy game. And then Edmonton also hosts Vancouver. The Ducks, Nashville, their final game, but they are at Minnesota tomorrow. And the game against Nashville, I believe, is on Wednesday. No, it's actually Thursday, which will conclude the season. So not easy. And then LA, as I pull up the Kings here. The Kings have 3 games, and their final 3 games are against the Kraken tonight in Seattle, followed by Vancouver and Calgary, all on the road. There is a chance. Now, granted, those 3 teams are on the outside. Seattle better than Vancouver, and Calgary not much better than Vancouver. Listen, I can see Nashville getting in. Again, I don't see Winnipeg, San Jose. And as far as the top of the Pacific, I'm going to say Edmonton finds a way. I know Vegas. I don't know. Vegas may stave off Edmonton. That will have to wait. But Thursday's podcast, although I won't be able to encapsulate everything, but obviously the playoff picture will be a lot clearer. Certainly in the East, as we'll break that down, but out West, it's certainly a wait and see. And with your schedule, as I pretty much talked about, I mean, do I even need to get into some of the others games? I guess I have to. Detroit at Tampa, only because Tampa, they're battling it out for the top spot in the Atlantic. Carolina, Philly, San Jose, Nashville. Colorado, Edmonton. LA, Seattle, Winnipeg, Vegas. Tomorrow. Jersey at Boston, Montreal, Philadelphia, Washington, Columbus, Anaheim, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Utah. Well, Utah's in, but Colorado, Calgary, Pittsburgh, and LA, Vancouver. Wednesday. Dallas at Buffalo. Interesting. New York at Tampa, Detroit at Florida. Well, that game is meaningless. San Jose at Chicago, Seattle at Seattle at Vegas. Yeah, and that is your NHL. So remains to be seen. I'm here for him. I'm looking forward to it, so you know. All right, comments. I'll get to those momentarily because I got to get through the baseball, and I got one other note that I want to bring up regarding tennis of all sports. Baseball. You had quite a few teams come back to the pack here, and baseball season is still percolating. Still got stuff going on. You still have some decent storylines. You have a big series starting tonight, which I will talk about in the schedule segment. But here's what you got. Yankees, Mets, Astros. I bring those teams up because they are mired in some bad losing streaks. I'll start with the Astros because they're the longest one. The Astros started 6-3. Since then, they've lost 7 in a row. They lost 3 in Colorado. They've now lost the first 3 to Seattle, which they will conclude their series this afternoon in a wraparound game before going home to play Colorado again in Houston. And Colorado flying high, you're thinking, wow, great start. And it got mauled here. Now, I know Hunter Brown on the IL. I know that the Astros, I don't know. I picked them as an under this year, I believe. I got a little bold. Let me just double check that. I did, 86.5. Now, listen, we're not even at tax day yet. But I'd be a little concerned if I'm the Astros. Long season, I know. But 7 in a row here in April. The old saying, can't win a pennant or claim a playoff spot in April, but you can certainly lose it. That's number one. Number two, the Yankees. And again, one more time, it's early, it's not tax day, etc. But for the Yankee fan, about 9 days ago, when they were 7-1, talking about, oh, big year, I feel it. How are you feeling now? 8-7, you lose the back end to the A's, shut out in the final game, go to Tampa, get swept. Now, we know they can pitch. They haven't been able to hit. I believe their batting average prior to going into the game yesterday, I think they were at 202. I mean, listen, we know baseball in 2026, it's not about having 2 or 300 hitters in your lineup, but man, you could go up and down that lineup. The only guy that's really hit is Stanton. He's hit. Judge is slumped. Jazz Chisholm can't get out of his own way. Listen, that lineup, they're going to hit. They're going to maul bad pitching. They're bully offense, but they have not gotten on track after that 8-2 start. And as far as the Mets go, I understand people are probably thinking, oh, JAYREELZ is going to pound on the Mets. He's going to get on them, whatever. Am I angry? Am I frustrated? Am I disappointment? You know the answers to that. A resounding hell yes. Another one they haven't been able to hit. Soto out of the lineup doesn't help, but there's something off with this team. Francisco Lindor with the gaffes in St. Louis. What happened the other day? On a ball that was hit to the second base side, he's going towards Marcus Semien. Semien has to go to the bag to step on second and try to get a force out where Lindor should have gone to second. I mean, just mental lapses. And I don't want to hear about this thing with the captaincy and Lindor. I mean, that's garbage. But he is off, and he's a notorious slow starter. I don't know if the hamate bone, if that's been an issue trying to come back. I don't know. But again, I've seen this movie before with the Mets. Good and bad. Good 2 years ago, 24-35. They had the best record in the second half. They got to an NLCS. But bad because they're the Mets, and they do Met-type things. And as I mentioned before, they go to L.A. to start off a series and then to Chicago after that, where, Chicago on paper could be dangerous. Bit of a slow start for them this year. But, yeah, I'm not going to go crazy on the Mets just yet. I'm not happy, but it's April 13th. I'll just leave it at that. Now, the other teams, whether they're back to the pack, I'm trying to get my standings here, people. The other teams come back to the pack, whether that's the Marlins a little bit. Now, we don't expect the Marlins to have a big year, although I felt that they were going to be over their number. I think it's 72.5 from Vegas, but they started off 3-0, 5-1, and 8-5, and now they're 8-8. So they've come back to earth a little bit. Then the Rockies, I bring them up because last time I talked about them, they were 6-6, and they were going well, and you were thinking, oh, all right. Hey, they're not going to be in the playoff hunt by Memorial Day, but let's have some fun here. They get swept by the Padres. Back to the pack. Cubs, I talked about them, 7-8, not a great start. But other teams that have surprised. I know the Rays here with that sweep. Orioles after that dreadful start, now 8-7. Twins, how about them? 9-7, and then they start off. Then they get swept to start off the year. Yeah, they got swept by the Brewers, did they not? No, they lost. Hold on a second. Yeah, they start off with the Orioles. Maybe I'm thinking of last year. Yeah, they started off the schedule in Baltimore. And yeah, they started off 1-4. And they were 3-6. And since then they've won 6 of 7. So kudos to them. But as I mentioned, we're into the third week of the baseball season. Some teams have not played well, and it's alarming, etc. But are we going to get that crazy here? Even me, as a Met fan, to know that as of this very moment, they've lost 5 in a row. They were 7-4, now they're 7-9. And I know fans want Mendoza's head. Can we relax, please? That's just typical New York fans for you, right? They want to put in a new manager and just whatever. But no, but that's what you had there with baseball and the athletics. I mean, seriously, that's another thing. The team can hit. I'll give them credit. But they cannot pitch. Aaron Savali, come on. I could probably hit that guy. And, of course, I'm teasing. I don't want to be disrespectful toward a major league pitcher. But what are we doing here? We can't hit Aaron Savali? If you're the Mets yesterday afternoon? Let me just move on. Schedule. Mets and Dodgers for 3. In fact, you have an LA-New York connection because you have the Angels here for 4 this week against the Yanks. So you got that. Houston concludes their series against Seattle, and then from there they host Colorado, as I mentioned. Arizona and Baltimore, Chicago at Philadelphia, Cubs. Washington at Pittsburgh. Paul Skeens pitching tonight. Miami and Atlanta, Boston and Minnesota, Cleveland and St. Louis, Texas at the Athletics. And then the other games that are of note tomorrow, Kansas City at Detroit, San Francisco, Cincinnati, Tampa Bay at the White Sox, Toronto, Milwaukee, Seattle, San Diego. Yeah, that'll pretty much do it for your schedule here this early part of the week. And some sad news in baseball. You had Phil Garner, one of the great nicknames, Scrap Iron, played on the 79 Pirates and won a World Series. Scrappy player, played third base, actually managed in the Astro organization. Died at the age of 76 due to a battle of pancreatic cancer. And again, was a lunch pail guy. His nickname said it all. Had some punch. Good fielder. I believe, didn't he manage the Astros there in 2005 when they went to a World Series? That was the year they lost to the White Sox. But for Garner, thoughts, prayers, condolences go out to his family, the Pirates, Major League Baseball, etc. And 76. I mean, what are you going to do? That's still very young, but pancreatic cancer, unfortunately, had taken him and had been battling that for a couple of years now. So, all right, one last thing before I get to your comments. And I have to bring this up because I saw this and I got to look into this a little bit more. But yesterday, although it wasn't a major tennis tournament, the next one will be next month in Paris at Roland Garros with the French Open. Yannick Sinner beats Carlos Alcaraz to now reclaim the number 1 spot in the men's rankings in the world. And this is after Alcaraz beat Sinner twice last year. Remember, the last 3 major titles was all Sinner and Alcaraz. No, I take that back. It was not, because in the U.S. Open, time out. The Australian Open this year was Djokovic. I forgot that. So my apologies there. Because dating back to last year, the French, Wimbledon, and U.S. Open was all Sinner Alcaraz, where Alcaraz won 2 of the 3, that being the French U.S. Open, and Sinner won Wimbledon, to where Alcaraz this year finally won his career Grand Slam by winning the Australian, but he beat Djokovic in the process. How is Yannick Sinner number 1 again? I'm sure there's a point system, rankings, whatever. This tournament was a Monte Carlo Masters that it's called. And by him winning in 2 sets, he all of a sudden reclaims himself as the number 1 player in the world after Alcaraz won the last major with Sinner not in it. And then the last major that they faced, Alcaraz beat Sinner. So one more time, make it make sense. How is Sinner the number 1 men's tennis player in the world? I'll look that up. I'll get into that, especially as we get closer to the French Open, and we'll chronicle that. And I'll give you a bit of a preview when we get to that point. But yeah, I found that a bit surprising, but something I need to investigate a little deeper into. But just had to throw that out there as we are about a month away. When is the French Open? It usually starts that first or third Monday of the month, which would be the 18th. When does the French Open start? Yes, that would be. Oh, no, actually, it's moved up. Yeah, the qualifying week is the May 18th to the 22nd, and then it starts Sunday, the 24th. So it actually starts the day before Memorial Day, the French Open. So that's what we have there with the tennis. And when that time comes, I'll be on top of that. So, all right, comments. Let's get at it. Let's get to it. My guy Bio, of course. Daniel Matrix, what is this? All right. If that's going to be the case, I'll reach out to you. I appreciate that, Daniel. All right, let's see. Anyone think the Lakers beat Houston? Yeah, Vlado says no. Injuries. I think if Luka comes back, I think they can beat them. I mean, they need both Luka and Austin Reeves. Bio, if you're still with us. I think they need both. But it's going to be a tall order. The question is it even a series? Yeah, Houston finds a way to lose these games too, so I don't trust them totally. I could see this being a 6 or 7 game series. Right now, I'd have to say Houston, only because you're not fully healthy. And which I know that stinks for the league because Adam Silver wants the Lakers in there, I'm sure, to get to a final. And to think if they're going to be one and done here, that's going to hurt more than it'll help. But if they're not healthy, listen, I got to be honest, they're not going to win the series. I mean, that's all there is to it. Yeah, I didn't see that. I read that. Yeah, I got to look into that more. I did see the headline. As a matter of fact, let me pull that up. Maybe I can watch a highlight of that right now. NBA. They don't have that there. All right, I'll look that up. Yeah, and that Mikal Bridges extends his streak after 23 seconds. I mean, come on. And how many games he's at now? 638. I mean, it's becoming a joke, but I'll just leave it there. Yeah, I got to look up that Isaiah Stewart thing. Don't like Orlando and the game F win that. Don't like Orlando. I know I like their talent, but yeah, Jamal Mosley, their coach, I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you, Vlado, on that. 3 or 4 times lose when they have 3-1-2. Doc Rivers. Yep, exactly. Bio, Isaiah played it cool yesterday. He bit his lip to get pushed around a bit yesterday. Oh, did he really? And Jay's, of course, a big Piston fan. Jay, I hope you're getting better. Of course, Val talks about his Sharks. Yes, yes, yes. Giants signed Brandon Allen to back up Jackson Dart and Jameis Winston. What's this? My Met prediction? Oh, for tonight? Dodgers? David Peterson, who's been awful, is pitching. And the Dodgers are throwing the kid Robleski, I believe. Yeah, David Peterson has not been good. I say the Dodgers win tonight. I mean, would I be shocked, stunned if they don't? No, but that's a floundering. And it's the worst team they can actually play right now. So we'll see. Giants, why have they been losing? What do you think is the problem? Their MLB team. Yeah, Giants, again, they just haven't hit. And they were in Baltimore over the weekend. Let me pull them up real quick. San Francisco. All right, they win on Friday, but when you score 4 runs in 2 games, I mean, what do you expect? And prior to that, yeah, they beat the Phillies. They're just an inconsistent team. Yeah. Mets Dodgers shorts incoming Nets. To another show about that. All right. No, I appreciate that, Val. I look forward to that. Tyron. Welcome. I don't know if you're still with us. 1201. Oh, you may be with us, Tyron. I see my guy Fuko, who I'll get to. Best years of baseball I've seen in my life. I love the 80s baseball. I think the 80s, those were some great times as a boy, as a teen. In fact, I had this on YouTube, they had this baseball trivia thing, which I watched, the wife and I, and it says, oh, some of these are hard. I mean, it was the biggest joke. I mean, the trivia questions were, who was the first player in the 80s to hit 40 home runs and steal 40 bases? I'm like, this is hard. And we all know who the answer to that is if Mark is in the room. That'd be Jose Canseco. But those are the type of questions they were. Like, really? Come on. Yeah, I love the 80s. The 80s, especially when the Mets got better in 84, throughout the rest of that decade. You had the 80 World Series, which was very good, Kansas City, Philadelphia. 82, Milwaukee, St. Louis, the Suds series. 83, not so much, Baltimore, Philly. Didn't Baltimore win in 5, I believe. The 84 Tigers. Of course, 86 Mets. The Don Denginger play. The 80s, I thought, to me, I think were the best that I've seen. Hall of Famers everywhere. Not to say there aren't there now today, but. All right, Fuqua, a.k.a. wrote a pen mark. Cowie Bowie Bull, Everyday Mets, Jonathan Sean Cup, Tatsuya Mai, Minnesota Fats. Is butthurt from not being named captain and minutes checked out stat pad player. Yeah, if he's butthurt about not being named captain, he needs to get over it. He really does. He's got to start playing better. These lapses in the field are inexcusable from a guy that's getting paid, what, $34 million a year? Not good. I agree with you there, Fuqua, 100%. One of the best to ever do it. Quick. Who is that, Val? Oh, Rangers play. Oh, wait a minute. Is he Jonathan Quick's retiring? I didn't see that. I don't see that here. Interesting. All right, Jonathan Quick, if that's the case. Tremendous career. 2 Stanley Cups. Now, is he a Hall of Famer? Oh, I got to get to that. We have signed Kayla Thornton. Oh, Valkyries. All right. Lakers win. Yes. Yep. But I feel better for J-Rod. Ace of Ones on a fire magic coach. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about Jamal Mosley, but if that's the case, I can see why. I picked them as an over this year, and yeah, they underachieved big time. Yep, Logan Webb, that also. I'm seeing the best baseball life in the last 14 years. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's your Dodgers. They retired 24. Wow. Wow, is that right? 24 straight years. Jeez. Yeah, Dodgers are a juggernaut. 14 straight. Yeah, right. Going back to 2011. All right. Try the best thing. That's right. Jonathan Quick, LA legend. Yes, he is. Whoop, hang on. Yeah, Dodgers are what, 11-3 right now? Or maybe 12-3? Where is this? Oh, come on. Standings. Oh, I lost yesterday, 11-4. My apologies. Yeah, they're flying high. I mean, they're the Dodgers. Unk! Lost 119 games. Yeah. And you've actually played pretty well. I just talked about them, although they got swept by the Padres. But yes, didn't he hit a leadoff home run yesterday? First pitch, I believe. Yeah, let's look up Jonathan Quick's numbers. Hockey reference. .410, .306, .90. Oh, no. All right. Yeah, I'm scrolling down Jonathan Quick. We got led the league in shutouts one year. That was the year they won a cup. Jennings Trophy twice. How many Vezinas? Come on. Oh, here we go. Switch to. Top 10 in Vezina. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then, yeah, that's it. And then he led games played. 14, 13. What was that? Oh, ties. Yeah, Quick, I don't know. 410, 306. He's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's got the 2 cups. Yeah, I can see that. Give me my assessment here. Whoop. Show here, yep. True, they think of giving Colorado residents Mount Oregon to show the Packers. Is that true? That'd be interesting. I know, the big Packers. They are not a community. Anybody can own Packers. When you think about it, oh, is that light getting ready to go out here right in front of me? I know. If you see the difference there, it's because of my ring light crapped out the other day. No, not the other day. The power cord crapped out this morning. They might put a statue of Quick. I can see that. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And yeah, he's. Listen, if I compare him to like the Dominic Hašiks of the world and all that, if black tight, but no, he's had a very good career. It would have been nice if he won 1 Vezina. Like I mentioned, top 10, but he was in the top 5, what? 1, 2, 3 times. Second and 12. He was third and 15, 16. And fifth in 2013, 14. Let's see. Oh, James. Well, that'd be something. The Rockies being a team that's, well, hey, we've seen a lot of strange things in sports. So that could be that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. But Rob Manfred, would he go for that? That'd be the big question. Yeah, the Walmart guy. Oh, did he really? He's got a thing with Denver. Something along those lines. Knowing that he owns the Bronco franchise, and then it's like, oh, hey, let's see if we can get the Rockies, which obviously they need a lot more help than the Broncos do. That's for sure. All right, let's see what else is happening in sports. Other than that, that will probably be it. Yeah, we know about Doc Rivers. Christian Yelich out, and the Brewers also hit the abutment too. pulled for a pinch hitter Wednesday. There's some fluid in there, so let's wait. That's the manager, Pat Murphy. Hand injuries, blah, blah, blah. All right, yeah, so no, that's pretty much it, people. Let's see, any more comments? Yeah, true. Yep, Stan Kroenke does own both the Nuggets and Rams. This guy's falling to the Blue Jays. Yeah, what did they do over the weekend? Toronto. Oh, I lost 2 games. Wait, they played, who did they play? Oh, the Twins. Yeah, Red Sox 6-9. Yeah, definitely not good. All right. Uh-oh, Fuqua. Jay, talking politics and news, the advanced free delivery, Amazon. Is that right? Wait a minute. If Amazon, we say free delivery for what? Just Amazon? Is it free across the board? Now you got me curious. Sophie Cunningham is staying with a fever and not going to. Yes. No, they definitely need her back. Indiana. All right. I think I'm all caught up here. All right. What I'm going to do, people, is I'm going to close out. And then if you have any comments, I'll get to them momentarily. But yeah, I will start to bid adieu. So with that said, people, another episode just about in the books. As always, thank you so much for stopping by, carving out precious time out of your day to listen to what it is I have to say about the toy department of life called sports. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe, rate, review on Apple, Spotify, of course, here on the channel at JAYREELZ, just to increase the visibility of this podcast with all the others that are out there. This is true, professional, on top of very passionate sports talk. None of this clickbait, rage bait garbage that you get out there. There goes a one light that went out. None of the clickbait, rage bait that you see with other channels that are out there. This is made by a lifelong sports fan. Yours truly, for you guys and gals, a sports fan, as I cover everything that's happening in the sports universe. And if you want to hit me up with any questions, comments, or suggestions, you could do so at the following: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the JAYREELZ Podcast, Twitter, JAYREELZ1, just the number, or on Instagram, just JAYREELZ. On Twitch, JAYREELZ1, just the number, the old-fashioned way, the JAYREELZ Podcast at gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to follow up with you guys and gals, because whether you do or do not know, this is what I love to do, people. I've been doing this full-time for over 2 years, trying to blaze a trail and a path in this podcast universe, YouTube channel space, to deliver nothing but passion, fire, energy, fury, my thoughts, opinions, critiques, praise, analysis, feelings on anything and everything that happens in the world of the diamond, ice, gridiron, hardwood, golf course, racetrack, tennis court, boxing ring, octagon, you name it. From my lips to your ears, from my heart to your soul, from where I am to wherever you are. The JAYREELZ Podcast always comes live, correct, direct, and in full effect. From the South Bronx to South Beach to South Central to South Pacific and all points beyond, peace, love, and God bless everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. And until next time on the JAYREELZ Podcast, on the flip, baby. Fuqua. Amazon is blood and life. Yeah. Unk, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for stopping by. I got to check you out on one of your live streams. Yeah, my wife orders from Amazon. We don't have 2 accounts. We have separate. Well, I canceled mine because I figured, well, and I don't usually go on Amazon. I'm old school. Unless I absolutely positive, I'm going to need one for my power supply for my ring light. So I'm going to have to ask the wife to order it. But yeah, I get it. People love the Amazon, get the 2-day delivery. It's the world we live in. So I feel you, Fuqua. How's the leg? I'm going to go running later. It's going to be warm. It's probably what now? It's going to get to 77. If I had to guess, it was 57 when I went outside to walk the dog. I'm going to say it is 68 right now. And the temperature in New York City is 71. All right. Yeah, it's going to get 78 by 6 o'clock. And tomorrow, 82, 86, 85. I love it. Next Monday, 51. Jeez. But What's this? Val championship pedigree, defensive force, perfect fit. We have signed Case Stokes, Valkyries. All right, kudos to them. Fuqua, how's the leg? I know you're back running daily, feeling good. I ran Saturday, was excellent. I'm going to run today. I'll get out there tomorrow. I'll get out there Wednesday. Get some consistency here when it comes to running. Get myself in better shape than what I am now. So that's what it's all about. We're not getting out alive, but as long as you're in good enough shape, that means you'll be around a lot longer. So, excuse me. Yeah, if that's it, everybody, I will sign off. Any of the last second comments, I'll be more than happy to follow up questions, whatever. Yeah, merch soon. I have, like I said, and I'll talk about it more. Maybe Wednesday's live stream, I'll bring it up. Yeah, because we're going to talk about beer glasses and mugs and among other things. So, yeah, get on top of that. More T-shirts, caps, you name it. I'll have it. So with that said, people, as you know, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for stopping by. Love the support. I'll probably do a live, not probably, I'm going to do a live stream tomorrow. But just like I did in the month of March, I don't know when. It's going to be 80-something degrees. You know, I'm going to be outside, T-shirt and shorts. Maybe after a run, whatever. I just don't know when. Could be first thing in the morning. We'll see. You just have to stay tuned. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Subscribe, the whole 9 if you haven't done so. And, yeah, that is it. I got to scroll to this other comment. That was on Twitch, right? Yeah, I got to get in touch with that guy. All right. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, people. Enjoy all the sports. Enjoy all that's going on. And until next time, on the flip, baby. Thanks as always.